spent a bunch of my free time today just really thinking about why I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do and how I'm gonna do what I want to do, and just getting some inspiration from others who have done it, reading, watching videos, doing the research, and it's just had me daydreaming, which has been kind of a nice pace. And so I'm out just thinking about what progress we've made so far, questioning whether I've made enough progress, obviously thinking about what's next, and again just kind of daydreaming of the possibilities, questioning of what I need to be working on. While it feels like I've made so much progress in such a short amount of time, it also feels like I've made such little progress in such a long time. It's hard to explain. One of my goals for this whole adventure really has been to spend more time with my family and appreciate more of that one-on-one time with my children. And I don't know if I've really been very effective at that yet. Things have been really hectic and busy since we moved, and in just the 3 months we've been here, maybe getting close to 4 months, I guess. Let's see, it would have been about 3 months that we've been here. Everything's been such a blur. So again, I'm just thinking about where I'm at and where I want to get to, how to get there. I think that's one of the most intimidating parts, is figuring out how do I do this? How do I get to where I want to be? How do I make the progress I want to make? What's the right thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do? As I walk around the property here and just look at what already is, and speculating and dreaming about what might be and what it could be or what it should be, it's exciting. And like I said before, it's a little bit overwhelming. I want to make sure that the things I'm doing, not just for myself, but for my family, for the land, for the extended family, I want to make sure that I'm being a good steward. I want to be a good steward of what I have, and I want to be grateful. And as I stand up here looking out over the property, thinking about what I have at my hands here, but also thinking about the responsibilities that I've accepted, I have to question sometimes, am I doing the right thing for my family? We took on a good bit of debt coming out here, but I want to make sure that this isn't just a dream that I dreamed up. Along those same lines, I've been thinking about how do I go about teaching my children to be good stewards, when I haven't even quite yet learned how to be a good steward myself. And I've been studying that, right? Like, that's part of how today got to the point it's in, right? Is just trying to figure out, like, how do I take my current experience and what I do know and augment that with knowledge and training and eventually experience, to be able to make the kind of impact I want to make, but do it in a way that makes sense for the family. Because like I said, we've had a good house, an easy commute, good things for us already. So it's not like we were needing anything. And this is not necessarily a quote-unquote easy life to live. As evident as the amount of work that I've already put in just the 3 months we've been here. It takes a lot. It takes a lot to do a day job and then do all of this. And one of the things I think that has been most difficult is patience, which is not a virtue that I have had most of my life, but I'm also trying to be more responsible and make sure I slow down enough to make sure that it's the right thing to do. One of the things that I've been considering is how to steward the land, because there's a lot of different, trains of thought on what to do, how to do it, when and where and why. And one of the things that I think I'm pretty well settled on is I want to do something that is what is considered regenerative, and that takes more work, but I feel like it's a better steward of things. And the area that I'm going through now is an area that is very overgrown. In fact, it's one of the few areas on my property that isn't open, and I think there's probably about maybe an acre and a half of this wooded area, which I absolutely love, and I don't want to cut it down, but as it is right now, it doesn't serve a significant purpose. And my hope is to clean it up to a point where it's still wooded, but also still usable. And one of the methods that I've been studying as far as kind of managing, we'll call it a smaller homestead, is permaculture. And I really believe that while it's a challenge to do something like that in a large, agricultural scale, my goal isn't large agricultural scale. My goal is, sustainability for my family, sustainability maybe for my immediate community. It's not so much sustainability for the broader system, which, looking at the way our food is done, the way the animals are raised, there's a lot of things that I think a lot of people have in common about their beliefs on the issues. The issue with it always comes in the solutions, and that's where all the discrepancies are, I think, between people. And for me, watching and seeing and learning more about how food is processed and made and things of that nature pushes me more and more to wanting to do it myself. I think a lot of the health issues that we face today are primarily because of our broken food system and the amount of process that goes into the food that we eat. And we are guilty of that ourselves. We have 2 kids, and after our first kid, I think we did okay with continuing to cook in a reasonably healthy manner. Still processed food, still quite a lot of processing in our food, but it got worse with the second kid by a long shot. We got too, and I'll air quote, busy to do things healthy or right. And I wouldn't say that either of us are phenomenal cooks. I enjoy to grill, but I don't mind cooking. But again, we've just always been busy. And I want to be busy in a different way. I want to be busy in a productive way. And for years, I always wanted land and didn't know why. Couldn't quite figure out, hey, why do I want this? Besides just wanting to get out of the city and whatnot. And I finally figured out, I think this is it. I think this is why I wanted it. And so I'm going to do what I can to build this in a way that's sustainable, that is healthy, that is good for my family. Not just physically good in the sense of what I'm eating, or what my family's eating, but good in the sense of this is good for our body, you know, and our soul. And as I walk around the property, quite frankly, I feel a bit spoiled, because a lot of the things that people move out and try and do this sort of stuff is kind of already here for me. Maybe not in the most ideal or perfect ways, but it's here. And a side note, I don't know if you can tell in the camera, but there's a little tree frog up there. Just chilling out at the top of the barn. And so, you know, this barn, I haven't quite figured out how the best way to use it actually is. But as I look at it, I think of all the options I have. And as I'm trying to think more about, you know, permaculture and how to make everything work together, one of the things I immediately think about is that this barn has a large roof. And if I decide to raise animals back here on this part of the property, which eventually I feel like I will, that roof would make a great place to collect water. And while it's not a natural part of the environment, I think it can be used to help provide water here where there is none on the property, because I don't have access easily to water back here. But again, I think about, you know, some of the land itself and some of the management that's been done, and while I feel like a lot of it's not great because it's not been well managed in my opinion, there are some good things about it. And you know, I don't think I'll install future permanent fencing, but that said, a lot of the fencing I have around the perimeter is in decent condition, which gives me a good start for raising various kinds of livestock. And the existing chicken coops and the chicken run, they're there, and while they're not maybe ideal, they're a start. And I didn't have to build them, they were already here. And so that's allowed me in just a couple of months to already have chickens on our property and already be getting fresh eggs for the family, which I feel like is a huge step in the right direction. And so these are just a couple of things I think about when I think about all the blessings. At the same time, as I think about all the blessings, and as I look back towards my house and I think about, you know, the beauty that is the situation and the location that I'm in, it's also a little overwhelming at times to think about all the stuff to do. My current job takes a lot of time, and it takes a good amount of nights and weekends. You know, in IT, I spend time doing on-call shifts. I do a lot of scheduled after-hours work, and it's not a typical, you know, 8 to 5, 40-hour job. It's quite time-consuming. And in addition, it also takes a lot of continued education and continuing to research and learn in order to grow in that field. And I've said before, my goal in this isn't to stop working or to, you know, change my career path, because I like the type of work that I do. But at the same time, my motivations aren't the same anymore. At one point, my motivations were to just grow in my career. And then I had my first child, and my motivations shifted a bit to growing in my career in a way that allowed me to provide for her. And then I continued to mature, and we had our second child, and I got to thinking more about what's not just providing for them, but what's good for them. And that goes beyond just, again, their food. I want to be able to give them an environment that's just outside of the kind of the forced day-to-day repetitive things, like getting up and going to school and then coming home and watching TV or sitting in front of a video game of some kind, which I've spent significant amount of my hours doing. And this isn't about attacking that. I think there's a time and place for that. But I want them to appreciate and grow beyond just like coasting. Not that I feel like I have coasted in life, but I don't want to foster that with my children. And, I'd be lying if I say that just the way things have gone in general, just over the last couple of years, hasn't prompted more deeper thought into all of this. I want to make sure that I keep sight of the why, because I don't want it to be a why out of fear or a why out of unknown or uncertainty or whatever. But I'm a person that doesn't like to rely on, I don't like to have to rely on somebody else. I don't like being forced to have to rely on somebody else to take care of myself and my family. And while that's a perfectly comfortable idea for some, it's just simply not for me. And after all of that rambling that nobody asked for, I'll think about how do I keep my eyes on the target, and how do I continue to go in the right direction, to do the things that I'm wanting to do and be the person that I want to be, and again, steward the land. It's exciting. I think our next step is thinking about what our next animal is going to be, and I want whatever that is to be something that I can learn and grow with, but foster relationship with that animal and the property in order to improve the land, to improve the quality of the pastures that are here, to rebuild some of the overgrowth into usable woodlands, to foster a good, healthy relationship of learning for the children, and something that we can learn with together. And so the what's next for us here, I'm still figuring that out. But here's what I'm thinking. Maybe it's cow, because I can eat beef and the family can eat beef. Maybe it's pork, for the same reasons. Everybody in the family can eat pork. You can get smaller pigs. You can get smaller cattle as well. And I do have family and a little bit of experience around cattle. So there's a little bit of familiarity there. And then lastly, thinking about sheep and maybe goats, but leaning towards sheep. And the reason for that is I've had sheep and goat, and frankly I like the taste of sheep better. And so sheep are also a little easier to keep in, but they raised goats on this property before, so to each their own. I'm hoping to figure that out soon, because fall is pretty much here. This is late September in Tennessee, and late September in Tennessee can either mean 30 and 40 degree nights, or it can mean 90 and 100 degree days. Like, it just depends on how Mother Nature's feeling at the time. But either way, winter's soon, and spring won't be far behind. And if I'm going to do something, spring is the time to do it. And so I guess we'll see. For anyone who's stuck around listening to my rambling for this long and humoring me, I appreciate it. While I try to figure out what's next and how I do this thing and how I balance, all of this stuff and the designing and thoughts on all of that, I appreciate that. Hopefully I'll have something of some substance to share at some point that is more than your typical backyard chicken flock and cutting grass. So maybe in the future.